with all due respect to my guy Beanie, man, my first year at a softball game. And I'm so happy that he understands why I don't invite him back.
Exactly. Wait, what happened? What happened?
Not saying I don't invite him back.
He doesn't invite you back.
He knows he's always welcome. But he's not the first call. Beanie.
I'm not helping nobody
baseball
win.
is not his thing. We won his first year. Beanie was on my team.
Yeah.
And all I remember, and I was so shocked to see in some of these guys, these high caliber athletes in football, you put them in a different sport, they was a fish out of water. And unfortunately, my guy Beanie was one of those guys.
Welcome to a new episode of The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His fake name is Beanie Wells. I am Dave Holmes. Make sure you follow us on social media at The Script OSU. But right now, if you're watching on YouTube, click the subscribe button. We're trying to beat our boys down there in Alabama, our sister podcast, and get us at Apple and Spotify. First off, I want to talk fashion here. I go plain white tee, okay? It looks like I'm an extra in an off-Broadway of Grease here. Like I could roll this cigarettes in the sleeve. Plain black tee. He got the message. Cardale, take us through the look here. What's going on?
Laundry day special. Some bright orange shoes, some joggers. I don't even know what color this shirt is. And a not purple, lavender hat.
But so the necklace.
But the gold pants.
The gold pants. They go with everything.
Exactly.
Yes,
Can't go wrong with those.
Yeah, they go with everything. So we got a big show here, a lot of stuff to get to. Let's get right into it, though. Cardale, it was a big weekend for you, your charity softball game. Look, I'm not saying these games are scripted.
No.
I'm not saying this is rigged, but when the game ends with a Cardale Jones walk-off home run, take me through the end of this game.
First and foremost, for the last 3 years, I've been the deciding factor to win or lose the game. So right now, I am 1 for 2. So thank God I got back on the winning side of those things. But we ended the game pretty short. I think we got through 4 innings because of the rain and the thunderstorms that was coming. And our team was up bat to last. We tied it up, and we couldn't end in a tie. Mm-hmm. So we had a swing off between the captains, me and Braxton Miller. And at a point, you know what, neither one of us was getting it out the park. Then after about 4 or 5 swings apiece, they said, you know what, whoever hit it the furthest. So Braxton had a nice line drive right into outfield, and it was pretty sketchy because I popped up every freaking one up into that last one, and I smoked it at the stadium. So
well, the stare down. All right, ladies, find you a man who stares at you the way Cardale stares at that final ball. He stared at it, Beanie. So Beanie, is softball your second sport? What if you weren't a football player? What would be your alternate sport?
If I wasn't a football player, I would like to think I was a basketball player, but I was just one of those really aggressive guys, good on defense, terrible on offense. But I love playing, so I was going to give you great effort. So I would say probably basketball. No. I'm not even saying basketball. I'm going pickleball. If that was a thing, you line anybody up right now and you want to challenge me in pickleball, let's go. I feel like I'm winning that thing.
Listen, Dave, with all due respect to my guy Beanie, man, my first year at a softball game. And I'm so happy that he understands why I don't invite him back.
Exactly.
Wait, what happened? What happened?
Not saying I don't invite him back.
He doesn't invite me back.
He knows he's always welcome. But he's not the first call. Beanie.
I'm not helping nobody
baseball
win.
is not his thing. We won his first year. Beanie was on my team.
Yeah.
And all I remember, and I was so shocked to see in some of these guys, these high caliber athletes in football, you put them in a different sport, they was a fish out of water. And unfortunately, my guy Beanie was one of those guys on the baseball diamond, and I can mention other guys. But when I noticed it was very early on in the game. The ball was Beanie was playing, I think, center or left field. The ball was popped up into their area.
Yeah.
Kind of that gray area, but who's going to get it? And as soon as the ball is hit, this is why I said, uh-oh. Beanie already got his glove up and running towards the ball, not looking at nothing else. And who's back there with him? A guy named Ron Tanner, another former Ohio State defensive back, and had no chance of a Beanie Wells running directly towards him, both of them going for the ball. No one saying mines, I got it or anything.
Yeah.
Beanie came down with a catch.
Okay.
But he ran straight through Ron Tanner.
All effort.
And I was just like, okay, let's not do this.
So you're like the 17th alternate now every year.
Exactly.
If smallpox box goes through Buckeye Nation, then you get the phone call.
But he could just invite me out for moral support. I'll be
Moral
there on the
support.
side.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of these guys have a standing invitation to hang out in the dugout.
You know, we have a lot of fun events this time of year. I was out at the Woody Hayes last week for what they call the Special Skills Invitational. It's something Urban Meyer started a little over a decade ago, and it's really cool. They bring out 200 kids and adults with special needs. They let them go through the camp. And something that's really cool about this, I know, Cardale, you did it because you were back during the Urban era. They don't, and look, with all due respect to the Buckeyes, they don't bring out the third stringers. I mean, everyone's out there. So these kids are meeting Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sane. It was a really cool event at the Woody Hayes.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm even more happy that they have it at the Woody now, so these kids get an opportunity to go through the facility and be right there on the field where these guys, the people they look up to, practice that and they sharpen their tools. And it was pretty good, cool to see that, you know, all the guys was out there. You know, we popped up there fairly early to kind of watch the festivities a little bit, and the guys had their game jerseys on out there. And just seeing the reaction on everyone's face who was going through that camp. And I had an opportunity to participate in that camp and be a camp counselor when I was at Ohio State. We used to have it at the field right outside the shoe. But having it at the Woody, it got to be that much more of an experience for these guys, and it's good to see that Ryan is continuing that tradition.
I assume, Beanie, at some point you've been a camp counselor many a times in various sorts of camps.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's always fun. I mean, when you give back to the kids and, you know, just seeing the joy on the kids' faces for, you know, so many different reasons, but none other than, you know, meeting some of their favorite players that are counseling them. I remember being at the 2nd and 7 for like 2 years straight and, you know, watching some of the kids come through there. That is Ryan and Luke Fickle and Mike Vrabel's foundation. They do some great things for the youth. And those things are always fun, especially when you watch the kids grow up and you see some of these kids that remember you from when they were 6 or 7 years old and, you know, have these great stories to tell. It's always a great thing. And that's one of the things that I do love about Ohio State is that they give back to so many underprivileged people. Yeah, they pay it forward all the time. I love that.
And the same day or the day after Special Skills, you had a camp of yourself, right? Cardale, you were at one too.
The same day. Care Source Impact Camp. We ran 2 camps back to back. Another thing that a lot of former players came out. I mean, we had guys that wasn't even advertised to be there that came outside in the Woody and saw that we was out there. Like, oh, let me get a camp shirt. And I was just like, man, this is crazy. And I can only imagine the experience and the things that, you know, these kids from these underserved communities experience those 2 days.
Yeah, it's almost camp season for the Buckeyes, almost real camp. So I guess many of us think you guys are just sitting around and waiting for, you know, camp to start. I'm assuming it's not that. So, Beanie, what's the final week or two here of summer vacation like for an Ohio State football player?
You know, going in college is so much different than pro. In college, you were kind of dreading it because you knew the first day that you checked into camp, sorry, not the first day, the second day, that morning you woke up, you had the gastro test. So you were kind of dreading that you had to be ready for that conditioning test. And, you know, a lot of guys were, you know, just coming in, checking in late. I was one of those guys. I was ready. I was checking in early. I was excited about it. I went through my whole routine every year in camp. I would cut my hair, shave my head bald, and be ready to go.
Wait. You shaved your head bald every year?
I did, just about every year. Except my last year. Last year is the only year I didn't shave my hair.
I ain't doing that.
Yeah. But that was the thing. I mean, I had got it from Antonio Pittman, Deontay Johnson. Those guys, for whatever reason, said, yeah, we got to go in here ready like we're going to war. Let's shave our heads. And I'm like, all right. But it didn't look good, but it was a thing, so I kind of continued that trend on.
I like that. Your name is Beanie with a shaved head. Sure, why not? All right, Cardale, what about you? Last week or two of summer camp.
I'm really just dreading the conditioning test. I was not someone that loved the condition in the summer. And, you know, I wasn't someone that was in the front of the pack when we did our conditioning days. I was kind of, you know, in the last 7 to 8 guys crossing that line. Always made my times, though. Always made my times. Let's get that twisted. But conditioning just wasn't my best friend. And then we used to have the 300-yard shuttles. And we used to have to run, I think, 3 of them and average a certain time within those 3 reps. And then if you don't hit that time, you got to do conditioning again. And then the NFL was a little different. We had 300-yard shuttles, but you had to get all 3 under that time. So it was harder. But that was the biggest thing. I think that week leading up into camp, it was really trying to make sure I was in the best shape physically to get through that conditioning test. Then you get through the conditioning test, I'm like, okay, I'm good now.
So if you didn't make your conditioning test with Tressel, you had aquatics. Aquatics was you would wake up bright and early in the morning the next day, 6 a.m., and you would have to go to the pool at the RPAC there. So you have to do pool workouts every morning at 6 a.m. before everybody woke up. Sometimes it may have been 5 a.m. But nonetheless, you would have to do that. And then that following week, you get a chance to, redo your conditioning test. And if you didn't do it again, it's aquatics. So it was terrible.
No.
What?
You wanted to do everything in your power to pass that test. But I remember so many guys, Alex Bam Bam Barrow would always fail the test. So he would always be one of those guys at aquatics, him and Dave Patterson. It was a crazy situation.
By the end of camp, he's on like the U.S. synchronized swimming team. He's like an expert in the pool. When you look at camp guys, as far as the conditioning, that maybe not conditioning, but the difficulty. Cardale, it's not as tough now as it was back then. I'm going to give you a chance to go on an old guy rant here, but have they reined in what they're allowed to do at this point?
I think they have, and I think only reason why, because the approach is a little differently now, right? They play a longer season. We haven't never had experience of 17 games or whatever they play now, and then just being more cautious of the wear and tear. It's so much more technology out there now to support load management versus just running a guy to the ground and who's going to be the toughest one to grind it out. So it's way more strategically planned when you're talking about just the weeks in camp or just how they operate each day to day.
Yeah, Beanie, how do you get ready physically, conditioning-wise, especially a running back where you're going to take, 300, 350 hits maybe in a year? So you want to ramp up, but at the same time, you don't want to get too ramped up.
Yeah, but I always thought that, let me get in the best shape of my life. So whether that's running hills, whether that's, lifting, I knew I had to be strong because I was going to take a beating throughout the football season. And I knew I was going to be one of those guys that got the ball. So I had to be in the best, condition in terms of, cardio anyways, because I was going to be getting the ball late in the game after being beat up in the first and second half. And I knew in the second half, that would always be my ideal time because I knew other people were going to be tired. So I would have that advantage on them. Yeah. But nonetheless, you better be working in the off season and be prepared, because if you get to training camp and you're not in shape, the coaches will be able to tell, and you will feel it the entire camp.
Yeah, the other thing about checking into camp that's weird for us in the media, they always have like camp check-in day where we would send cameras out there and record. Look, man, we would record these kids walking into their dorms. And to me, it was like the creepiest thing in the history of media, where all these like 19-year-old boys are walking in their dorms and we're rolling on it like, oh, did you see what T-shirt Jeremiah Smith had on? Did they do that, Cardale? Were the cameras there when you checked in back in the day?
Yes, a little.
Some of the guys on the beat enjoyed a little too much.
Exactly.
Like, I hated being there.
Yeah, we had that. We checked into the Hyatt over in Grandview at the Yard. So you had, the cameras that would follow you guys in, and then I think after we won a championship, I think the Big Ten was out there doing some like some behind the scenes Big Ten stuff. So they actually was at my apartment while we packed up my apartment to get ready for camp, and they actually went, oh, what's this type of things? And I had this funny thing with my roommate Tyvis Powell at the time. I used to take like 2 outfits to camp. And just all underclothes. I'm like, guys, because only time we wearing regular clothes is when we wake up. So when I get to the Woody, I'm putting on my loop.
Right.
Yeah. And so when I get home, I'm like, so Tyvis asked me, like, Cardale, what you wearing? I was like, the same thing. The other was changing underwear. So I used to just have a backpack. Like, I'm good.
Right. Yeah. They had cameras back when you played, right, Beanie? I mean, like
back in the day,
the technology was around. Yeah. Do you remember the check-in day?
Yeah, I do. I always remember the check-in day. It wasn't. It was more so just they were taking pictures. We didn't have like interviews or anything like that. Maybe my last year, I think we caught up with the Times and had interviews. Yeah. But before then, it was just they were taking pictures, and we would go on the redzone.com or .net and go out and get the pictures from there, get the cool shots. That was the coolest thing back in the day.
Yeah, well, camp is about to open. Can't wait for real football. Month of August will be here before you know it. We are off next week on the Script, so when we come back, camp will be in session. But we still have a lot more show coming up here on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. We're talking NFL Buckeye bets, what we think you should do with our friends from Prime Sportsbook Ohio. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Follow us on social at The Script OSU. Subscribe, YouTube, Apple, and follow us on Spotify. All right, so last week was the ESPY Awards. I thought Shane Gillis was hilarious. No one in the room did, but hey, that's comedy for you. So, Cardale, do you have any ESPY memories or anything crazy that happened around that?
Yes, I do. Meeting and laying eyes on the love of my life at the time, Ronda Rousey, in person. And it was the crazy experiences ever because I just watched her dominate UFC as a woman at the time. And then seeing her all dressed up, I was just like, holy smokes. I don't know if I was more attracted that I know she would kick my butt or knowing that, how she looked outside the ring and stuff like that. I remember I shot her a tweet after the ESPYs, like, hey man, what you doing after the show and stuff like that. And then she didn't see it afterwards, but I think her publicist team had mentioned it maybe a day or so after because she was training and getting ready for a big fight herself. And she had commented on it on her personal social, and it kind of got back to me, and she was blushing a little.
So I remember this too.
Yes, and I'm just like in my head, I'm just like, so you telling me it's a chance? Clearly, it was not a chance in hell, but it was pretty cool because speaking back about camp, going into camp about 3-4 weeks later. I actually wore a Ronda Rousey t-shirt going into camp. So I kind of was getting that buzz started back up again, but it was nothing there.
You shot your shot with Ronda Rousey.
And got shot right down the most polite way. So
Cardale has so many freaking viral moments. Whether it's on social media or just some type of interview.
Yeah.
Viral king before it was like a thing.
Yeah,
I tell people all the time, man, I blew up social media, man. I blew it up myself.
Yeah, he's the guy who made it big. All right, so we're going to do something here with our friends from Prime Sportsbook Ohio. If you haven't heard about this, make sure you get on Prime Sportsbook Ohio. Use our code word SCRIPT. That'll get you a $500 deposit match. It's really, really good stuff. And what we love about them, Beanie, they're not taking 10%. They've got a special juice for you.
No, not at all. They take 8%. They don't do that 10, 12, 15 mess that we see those other people do out there. That's why you got to love Prime Sports. More money in your pocket when it matters most.
And if you want to get help, you can slide in their DMs like they're Ronda Rousey. Right, Cardale? You get a real person.
That's the best thing about it. If you're having issues, you're having problems, no matter what it is, you calling them, you reaching out, and they're getting back to you in a very timely manner.
All right, so let's talk about this. We've got some bets here, some former Buckeyes we want to discuss. These are over-unders for the season. First one is former quarterback C.J. Stroud here at Ohio State, now with the Houston Texans. Over-under 21.5 passing touchdowns. You have an early read on this.
Yeah, I think he gets over that. This is going into his fourth year?
Third year.
Third year, and it's a time to where he's going to be looking for a new contract. And not only that, but I think they got the right pieces to the puzzle. We saw the progress he's made from year 1 to year 2. I think C.J. Stroud is definitely going to be in a discussion for being a top 10 quarterback. He gets over 21.5 touchdowns.
I'm taking it over as well. I know he lost one of his big targets, Stephon Diggs, this past offseason, but he is solidifying a run game and the pieces around him going into the third year of a system. And this is where we usually see the jump with these young quarterbacks, having that stability going into the third year NFL, knowing what to expect. And now you're just saying, this is not a team that's going to drop back and have to pass the ball every play because they have a solidified and a solid running game, definitely for this division and where they play at. So I'm going over 21.5 all day, every day.
I'm not just playing over 21.5. I'm windmilling it in. I mean, because to me, he had 20 touchdowns last year in a year where everything went wrong. The offensive line was terrible. Steph Diggs got hurt. Tank Dell was out almost the entire season. Everything went wrong last year. They drafted new receivers. They have reworked the offensive line. I don't know by talent, but at least by scheme. So, yeah, to me, this is the biggest pound the over one. All right, next one's interesting because Marvin Harrison Jr., by his standards, had a disappointing rookie season. It wasn't a bad rookie year by normal standards, but I think by his expectations. Also heard a little bit, I think, that Malik Neighbors went nuts with the Giants, so he got compared there. But Marvin's over under 7.5 touchdowns this year, Beanie.
I think he gets it. In the second year, he's going to be the guy. I think last year they waited till week 5 or 6 to get him going, which I thought was asinine, by my former Arizona Cardinals
I was
team.
going to say, you know them well.
But I think this year, you look at Marvin Harrison, you know what he possesses. He's added weight. He's stronger, going to be more physical. I think he's going to be a big-time red zone threat. 7.5 is going to be nothing for him.
I think so as well. I think I'm taking it over on that. I think, Kyler Murray has another year and there's another offseason with Marvin and developing that chemistry. And now saying, hey, I'm start this season early off going to my guy. The red zone, he's going to be a problem. But he has the ability, he has the talent, he has the speed to get the ball in the field, period, and take it the distance. So I'm going over 7.5.
Yeah, I'm taking the over too. And if this were catches and yards, I might go under because like Beanie said, I don't love the way they schemed him last year. But to Cardale's point, when you get down close, it's Marvin time. And I think if Kyler Murray is going to throw 26 to 28 TDs, a fourth of them are going to go Marvin's way. So I'll take the over on that. Next one's interesting. Justin Fields now is with the New York Jets, and he's the presumed starter for the whole season. 15.5 passing touchdowns is a dangerously low number, but it's factoring in injury. It's factoring in the fact that the Jets are probably going to be one of the run-heaviest teams in the league. So, Beanie, 15.5 passing TDs for Justin
Fields. It's interesting. That's a really low number. And, in my mind, I got to sit here and say, yes, it's Justin Fields. He's going to get 15.5. We're in a passing league. Yes, they're going to run the football heavily, but, this is a passing league. They got Garrett Wilson, just got him under contract. They're going to try to force feed him the football and say, you know what, prove to us that you are deserving of that money that we just gave you.
Cardale, what do you think?
This is a tough one for me. This is one I've been going back and forth on. I can see the over and the under because I do think when I think of Coach AG and I think about what the things that they did in in Detroit, but I know he's a defensive guy. I think he's going to want to control the clock. And like you said, I think they're going to be a very run heavy team. And that 15.5 over under touchdown passing, I can see the under, but I also can see him putting up 10 to 12 rushing touchdowns. So that's the tricky part about there. But then again, like what Beanie said, the fact of you just paid a guy $100 million and you talking about we're not going to have over 15 touchdowns as a passing offense. That's going to be tough, but I'm going to take the under because I think Justin brings so much value to that offense in the run game.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. I mean, and I'm with you because I think he's going to have 25 touchdowns, but I think a lot of them are going to come on the ground. And I think they're going to try to keep it run heavy, slow the clock down. So I'm going to take the under on that as well. Now, we mentioned Garrett Wilson. He's 4.5 receiving touchdowns. Guy just got paid. Beanie, you got to score 5 touchdowns when you get paid. So, and it's not a talent issue whatsoever. It's a how are they going to play their offense?
Yeah, I'm betting the house on this right here. 4.5 touchdowns for a guy that just got $100 million, like Cardale just said. And we know how explosive of a playmaker he is. So we're not just talking about in the red zone. He can take the top off of a defense. He can take that 5-yard hitch and go 50 yards and get to the end zone. I think it's going to happen more consistently. I truly expect this Jets offense to be much better than they were last year. He gets that with ease.
I'm saying the same thing. I mean, guy, $100 million player, I think over 4.5 touchdowns easily. And on top of that, playing with a former quarterback that he already has some chemistry with. These guys train together in the offseason. These guys played at a high level at Ohio State together. I'm going with over 4.5.
And I'm also going to go over 4.5. Part of the reason I took the under on Justin Fields is he takes so many shots running the ball that he could get hurt. And the unders generally hit on season-long props. That's a little something for you. Unders are better because they factor in good health. So anytime a guy gets hurt, your under is going to hit. But the thing about Garrett Wilson is if Justin Fields misses 3 games from injury, he can still catch touchdowns from someone else. So for me, I'm going over on Garrett Wilson 4.5. Last one, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 950.5 receiving yards. Now, here's the thing. DK Metcalf is gone. Tyler Lockett is gone. Cooper Kupp comes in, but the Rams thought Cooper Kupp was washed, and they let him walk out the door. So I'm going over Jackson Smith and Jigba 950.5.
I want to go over so bad, but I just can't do it here. I can't see it just because they got so many unknowns. This is going to be essentially a completely new football team on the offensive end for the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, he's probably going to be the number 1 guy, but getting 950 yards with the quarterback that we don't know what that's going to look like.
Is it week 1 through 15 Sam Darnold, or is it the last couple of weeks?
Exactly.
We don't know what that's going to look like. So I got to go under. I think Jackson's going to have an incredible year, and he can still have an incredible year without getting 950, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go under with that as well. And just a simple fact of a lot of moving parts in that offense coming together this offseason. I mean, it's hard to have a lot of faith in that with him having individual numbers. And I don't think Cooper Kupp is washed at all. I think they're going to do a lot of things with him, with moving him around the field and try to get him to force feed him the ball as well. But I'm going to go with the under on those yards.
Well, hey, make sure you get on our friends at Prime Sportsbook Ohio. Use our code word SCRIPT, $500 deposit match. It's good stuff. If you think you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 and over. Odds subject to change. Coming up next here, we have a big problem brewing down in Cincinnati with the Bengals, and there's a greater discussion at large about contracts in the NFL. We're going to talk about that coming up on The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Welcome back to The Script. Hit us up at The Script OSU on social. Give us a subscribe on YouTube and Apple, or follow us on Spotify. All right, time for our Buckeye Basement Solution segment. We love our guys. They'll diagnose your basement, whether it's foundation, cracks, waterproofing, whatever you need. Buckeye Basement's got you covered. And we have a solution that we need to solve ourselves here. What is our Buckeye Basement solution for what's going on in Cincinnati with the Bengals? Because Shemar Stewart, their first-round draft pick, still unsigned. And Beanie, look, I don't want to speak ill of the Bengals, but they do have a reputation of being a little tight on the wall. Now, I've heard rumors that when Mike Brown pulls a $5 bill out of his wallet, Abraham Lincoln's wearing sunglasses because he hasn't seen the sun. They've had this reputation. They did pay Jamar Chase. They did pay Joe Burrow. They paid T. Higgins. So what's the plan here, though, to get a first-round pick into camp?
You know what? This situation is kind of crazy. And it's a new deal that it's a clause in the new contract that will set precedent across the league if this kid did indeed sign it. And I don't necessarily like it. And I heard Mike Brown's comments coming out talking about, if my player does get in some trouble that is detrimental to league standards and that doesn't shine a good light on us, I don't think we should pay him. Now, I get it on one hand, but then what if there's a situation to where, he gets into a situation to where he gets in trouble, but later on, he comes out clean and says all of this stuff was false allegations against him. And now he's not being paid all of this time. What do you do then? So it's kind of a murky situation. If I'm an agent, I wouldn't want my player to sign that clause that could stipulate he could not get any of the dollars guaranteed going to him if he were to get in any little situation that the league can say, it's detrimental to this team and our brand. I don't like it one bit.
Yeah, and to be clear, if Mike Brown got in legal trouble, the ticket sales still come in, the TV rights deals still come in. So Cardale, Mike Brown gets his money either way. So, I can see Beanie's point here.
Yeah, I think it's a tough situation because I think, to Mike Brown's comments, I think he's kind of trying to refer back to something more serious than just, a slap on the wrist type of trouble where he can be held accountable and forfeit those guaranteed dollars. Now, I think what will help and potentially put both sides at ease if you were to spell it out. If you were to say, hey, any type of felony conviction, any type of NFL or player misconduct that leads to a conviction, right? Maybe that would put both sides at ease versus, if you do anything that's detrimental to the league, like what does that mean, right? I think it's so much gray area in that. If this is truly the case that both sides are fighting over, just be more clear in the contract. No one wants those loopholes or gray areas in the contract. I mean, we see it every year where a guy gets either bamboozled out of some money or find a loophole to make sure he gets some money. So just being more clear with the contract, I think that's going to be key for these guys to move forward and ultimately find a solution to this problem.
It's just so tough because you don't want to set precedent across the league. Now, if the Bengals do it, every team across the board has said, we're going to adopt the same thing. And we all know every situation isn't uniform. They're not all going to be the same. Yeah. Trouble one place is going to look completely different elsewhere. So I don't know if you want to put that broad stroke across everybody's contract. And I think that will be the case if this kid did go and sign it. So I understand it. I get it. Now, the question is, what happens if he doesn't sign? Now, is there a situation where he can go back to college? I don't know, because now we're in a new era with the whole NIL situation to where once upon a time, if you declared that you were going to the league and you were drafted and you already signed contracts with agents and all that, now,
you're forfeited your eligibility.
Yeah, you forfeit your eligibility. But now these guys have agents because of NIL situations. So would there be a situation to where he could petition and potentially go back to playing college football this year? Because they said he was back to practicing at Texas A&M. And I don't know how that works.
Yeah, and the bad part is, from a football standpoint, you can make a case that Shemar Stewart is one of the guys who needs camp more than anyone because he's a guy who is a 5-star body, a 5-star talent, but didn't really produce with numbers at Texas A&M. So he's a guy who really needs to get into camp and get going here. So I want to ask you a bigger conversation at large here as we talk about our Buckeye basement solution on how to fix some of these contracts. One of our guys just got paid, Garrett Wilson. Another one of our guys trying to get paid in Terry McLaurin. So Cardale, when you're in the league, how do these guys look at the contracts? Because on the one hand, there's only so much pieces of pie to go around under a salary cap league, but on the other hand, I know the players root for each other to get paid because it's always kind of us against the owners.
Yeah, it's a hurry up and wait. It's a hurry up and wait. Of course I'm going to root for you to get paid because now I'm going to base it off what the new industry standards is. We just saw outside the Buckeyes, we just saw T.J. Watt get paid, and then what's another dominant pass rusher up for their money? Michael Parsons, right? So he is like, okay, that's the standard. I'm going to go off that, even if it's 108 million and 100,000, whatever. I just want a little bit more than what that guy has got. But back to Terry and Garrett's situation, Terry has been the best player for the Commanders for the last 5 to 6 years, outside of Jaden Daniels, and he's going to be clearly the franchise quarterback there. he has done it with a lot of different guys behind center at an extremely high level. He has been to multiple Pro Bowls. He has, I think, been a first team or second team All-Pro type of player since he's been there, since a rookie, right? So I would already say he has outperformed and overachieved even the contract extension that he got coming out of his rookie contract. He's definitely due for another contract, and he's a guy of high character. He's a guy you want in that organization because he's not holding out, he's holding in. He's been very vocal about his frustrations about not having a new contract yet, but he's still showing up to work every day, giving you his all. I know he is. That's the type of guy he is. So a guy like that, you got to reward a guy like that, right? Those are guys that's going to continue to help establish the culture in your organization for years to come.
Okay, so you want other guys to get paid, Beanie. What about when they hold out? When you were at Arizona, did anyone ever hold out? Do players then get frustrated if a teammate's not in camp, or do they say, nah, he'll be here eventually, just getting his cash?
No, I think you understand for the most part. You may have one or two guys that say something about a guy not being there, but overall, you generally understand why guys holding out. I've had situations to where players have held out when I was in Arizona. I think we had Darnell Dockett, Anquan Bolden, those guys holding out for more dollars. And it was justified because those guys outperformed their previous contracts, and those were, cornerstone pieces to our football team. So yeah, you get it and you understand, and you want everybody to get paid and feel secure in their value for the football team. And you don't want to be one of those players that come out and say something against them, because when it's your turn, you don't want nobody saying nothing against you, and you want to get paid.
Yeah, I remember this is a long time ago. So I won the ESPN reality show, and they had this thing for me at Kent State, and they called it Dave Holmes Day, February 19th, if you guys ever want to celebrate. But they did this event on campus, and they brought back Antonio Gates, because he was also a Kent State guy at the same time I was there. And they brought Gates back, and I interviewed Gates there at a basketball game, and afterwards we're doing this autograph signing, and I'm talking to Antonio, and this was right after his first Pro Bowl, and he was an undrafted free agent who makes the Pro Bowl. And I said, buddy, you're going to hold out this fall. He's like, no, man, it's not like that. I said, see me in July. 5 months later, he was holding out, baby. And I'm like, of course you are, because you're making league minimum. And he ends up in the Hall of Fame. He's in Canton. So, yeah, Cardale, I guess it's, when you look at your guys' career, you only have this much time to make all the money you can. I mean, now, obviously, there is life after football and careers, but the only chance you have is that 3, 4, 7, 10-year window if you're very lucky.
Yeah, of course. And you got to maximize that window. I think the biggest thing is this as well, outside of the money. And people, I've been in many rooms where people talk about guys in the NFL getting paid so much money and thinking they're not deserving of it because they don't understand how much money that they make for these owners. And I'm just like, these owners make so much money. I'm like, this is not even the amount of money they're paying for their salary cap on the team is probably maybe 20% of the money that the team is making as owner. So it's actually nothing compared to the value that they really bring into this league. And if you really want to get down to, this league is driven by the players at the end of the day. And that's the cool part about playing in the National Football League or playing at a professional level, period. You understand the value you bring to it, and you want to be paid accordingly.
Right. Yeah. Why do we love protecting the billionaires and get mad at the millionaires?
Makes no sense.
That's weird. That's weird.
We love it. Like, it's crazy.
And I think it's something that the owners probably put the pressure on the media to put that narrative out there.
Yeah,
of course. Because
we gotta be mad at these guys.
How many real NFL or NBA owners are real sports people, or this is just their only thing they do?
Right.
These people have making billions and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in other industries. And like, hey,
this is one
let me just get a little sports team or something.
It's a side hustle. It's a billion dollar side hustle.
Exactly. And it sounds so crazy to say because how big of a business the NFL and the NBA and all these professional leagues are. But these are pennies compared to what they really doing with all the other monies that they have.
Yeah, I've always said with the Cleveland Guardians, and I know you guys are fans, the Dolan family, people, would say, oh, we lost money last year. I'm like, but you know what? Your overall investment is exponentially growing.
Right, for sure.
So like if you bought a pro sports team for $200 million and you lose, but then you can sell it for $1.5 billion.
Exactly.
It's like, guess what? You know what? You can sell your house for 7 times the value. You might have to replace the water heater.
Right.
Like that might be the cost of doing business, but these billionaires keep making more and more, and their investment is tripling, quadrupling, quintupling. don't get mad when you have to pay the electric bill.
Don't make sense.
That's what it is. All right, well, that'll do it for us here on this episode of The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Make sure you go to our friends at Buckeye Basement Solutions. Get on their website, buckeyebasementsolutions.com. Give them a call, 614-956-4592. More than 20 years experience. They'll custom make whatever you need to help your basement out. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks on our next episode of The Script.